Hey,
There, sir. How are you?
doing great. How you doing, Sage?
Good, good. All right, Alex. Um, People will come in. Don't worry about it. Sorry, I just got all my notes ready and everything all set up on this. So, um, we'll wait till five after, and if no one shows up, we'll just do a recording and we'll put it up on to GRC. I'm not sure why no one's here. I've never had a session where no one's shown up before, so we'll definitely see what happens. I'm curious. I'm pretty sure someone will be here.
So that's good.
January. All right. All right, so we're going to go ahead and consider this a quorum. Thank you, Dennis and Nikki, for joining. Appreciate the two of you. January, I don't know if that's you or your Fathom, but hi, if it is you. Uh, Everyone, we're going to jump into this today. Welcome, Alex, to our session, Regenerative Iteration section. Today, we're going to be talking about Permaculture.Party, and we're going to learn all about Alex, and we're going to have a little bit of a summary first, and then we're going to jump right into questions and to talk about how Alex is impacting the world and how Alex is making permaculture fun and accessible for others. We're super excited about this and we want to learn here. All right. So, Alex, if you can you just give us a summary about current Permaculture Party, like how it got kicked off, how you serve, and sort of how you show up around your communities?
Absolutely, and thanks for having me, Sage. Super great to be here. So Permaculture Party started about 2.5 years ago when I first discovered permaculture, and I pretty much instantly fell in love. Was just inspired and felt very empowered of wow, there's actually pretty very practical regenerative solutions that we can take to grow food in a way that heals the earth. But that permaculture is also a lot more than just food. It's about people and fair share and really a framework for how to develop a regenerative lifestyle. And so once I fell in love with permaculture, I realized you could make a career out of it. And then I had this burning like thought of why aren't more people doing permaculture? How do we get more people to permaculture? And that's where Permaculture.Party was birthed. And the vision was if we can make it fun and playful and communal and multi-generational and cultural, and we bring in the dance and the arts and multi-generational aspects, then more people are going to be drawn to it. So at its core, that is what a permaculture party is. It's a multi-generational celebration where we combine planting with dance and art and culture and play. But then the business permaculture party is also my business. So the party is one aspect, but we also design foodscapes, we also install foodscapes, and we do education and coaching and maintenance. I tell stewards, we offer everything required to convert your landscape to a regenerative foodscape while having fun and building community.
I love it. I love it. Um, how how did Okay, so you go straight from getting into permaculture, then to the permaculture party. How did you decide that basic? Because what you're doing is you're serving one customer for a permaculture party, right? But then you're bringing in the whole surrounding community around that. How did you stumble on that, and how have you found the best success in order to bring that community and invite them into this?
It came together, I will say it was fairly intuitive. Like it just kind of it came to me in bits and pieces, but it became pretty clear of like I had this aha, like, well, why don't we just call it a permaculture party and make it a party? So the name kind of came intuitively, and then I let it um percolate for a year where I had the vision, and then I took a year where I still was in my old corporate job. I let the idea really saturate so that I could, figure out exactly what it was meant to be. And then as we've launched it, we've refined a lot of trial and error. It's each party's a little bit different, and then it's about and most of my stewards have been through my community up until this point. So most of the stewards we work with are individual landowners. I did do one tiny home community as well, but a lot of people it's just my direct community or one factor away from my direct community. So the kind of business has naturally gravitated to me. The people I was meant to work with have kind of had like just the right amount of projects to not get too overworked, but to be busy enough as we move forward. And it's happened fairly organically.
That's very cool. Very cool. Um, so these local communities, especially families, children, and volunteers, how do you see them getting involved, or how has it been received as far as their being invited into this world? Like, how's it going?
It's going great. And if you visit the Instagram Permaculture.Party, there's some pretty good reels on there where you see of events. By no means have we posted content from all the events we've done. I'm way behind on that. But people love it. They really do. And it's fun to see even because there's all the beautiful thing is that it can really apply to anybody because there's some people who are already all in on this wavelength. They're into permaculture. They're super passionate about it. They show up, they love it. This is what they already do in their free time. But then you get other people who do not do this in their free time. And that's like almost the most fun because they're like, wow, this is actually really fun. And my kids running around having a great time. And I was able to bring my whole family. And that it became fun. So that those are some of the funnest ones to see. And the balance I've also found too is to find that right balance of making it easy and not overworking. It's not about being overworked. It's not about coming and doing a bunch of rigorous activity. It's about having fun. And so finding that balance of having the right amount of stuff to plant and making it easy, just putting the plants exactly where they're going to be planted. And then doing maybe like an hour is usually all it takes. Sometimes even 20, 30 minutes to get everything planted. Because if you get 20 people there and they each spend 30 minutes, that's 10 hours right there. You can get a lot planted. So things go really fast when the community shows up.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So with this, how do you feel this role of cultural expression? So like dancing, storytelling, music, all of this. How do you feel this role plays a part of reinforcing like ecological connection and ecological learning and even like stewardship system care?
I think it's fundamental because if you kind of take a step back, this vision that I see with Permaculture Party, it's really an ancestral idea. It's not a new concept at all. Our ancestors have done this, indigenous cultures have done this for millennia, where they gather together in community to harvest food, to plant food, to dance and storytell. So that cultural piece is integral. And a vision we have is really to inspire and empower people to adopt regenerative lifestyles. So if we can integrate their culture and their local food and their local music and storytelling, then that is more likely to become a lifestyle if we can incorporate that into their existing culture. So I do view that as very fundamental to create a lasting culture. I mean, that's what permaculture is, permanent culture. So like you can't have it without the people. Right? There's so much focus on permaculture about the food part of it, but if you don't have the people involved and the multiple generations involved, then you can't really create a sustaining human culture with this.
That's great. Next question on here. So, what aspects of, well, I got a question around prototyping here on this one. So, you said you sort of stewed on this for a year and sort of let it percolate, and then you started trialing it and getting out to those communities. What did you do? Just go right out to your backyard community first and sort of just start there? Or did you try to piggyback on someone else? The reason I'm asking this is often when we have new ideas, we get that imposter syndrome a lot, and we're like, okay, should we just go with it? Or should we try to piggyback? What worked for you? And how did you make that less anxious for you when you're trying something new like this?
Yeah, great question. The first ever party was in Tulum, Mexico. So last spring, like March and April, I was living I just left my corporate job to do this full time, but I went down to Latin America for 6 weeks. And there was a conference called Regen World. It was kind of like a regenerative conference down there. And I reached out saying, here's what I'm up to. And then the founder of Regen World said, hey, here, I have a local land steward who's into this. So that came naturally. Uh, and I was living with, they were called Regen Tribe. It's kind of like regenerative community down there. So they helped provide some of the initial ideas for that party of like, let's have an opening circle and let's bring drums and stuff. So and then from there, I came back to Minnesota and I had someone I worked with who was interested. And then I just naturally did a party for her and kind of let her lead of like, here's what I want my community to learn. Here's what I want what I want you to educate on. Another game we do at the beginning, we do this like fun and playful introductory game where everyone says their favorite fruit and does a dance move and says their name. I learned that at a retreat I was at. So pieces kind of just came together. And then I did do a party at my house last year, which was kind of it was actually the fifth party, but it was the my original vision of like, here's where I want to do this at a big scale and see what it can be. So I got two neighbors involved and I was like, hey neighbor, can we do a project in your yard for free? Like you buy the plants, but we'll do all the work. So excuse me, it actually became a permaculture block party. It was my house and two neighbors' house where we planted a rain garden, we planted a pear tree guild, we did some projects at my house. And that helped really provide the foundation for how do I do this. And then from there, it's fairly straightforward now. Like I've done enough. They come easy. We do an opening circle, and then we just flow. That's one thing I've really learned is some events everyone just plants and it's 20 minutes later you're done planting and then you just hanging out the rest of the time. But other times we ebb and flow. We might plant for 20 minutes and then take a break and let other people show up and then do another 20 minutes of projects. So it's really about reading that community and what is the vibe and how fast do people want to go.
Yeah, on the flip side, what were some of the negative things that you've seen over time that you've like, hey, I need to stay away from that, or lessons learned around like maybe pitfalls or traps that you've fallen into as you've gone on this journey?
I think one was trying to have too rigid of a schedule. That just
Say it
doesn't
again.
happen. Like having a rigid schedule. So we're gonna
Okay.
start planting at this time, and then we're gonna have a lunch at potluck at this time, and then we're gonna do a bonfire at this time. That just doesn't happen. So I've just kind of stopped doing here are the scheduled times. Well, I still do put a schedule, but I just put very clearly like subject to change. We're gonna go with the flow. So that's been the biggest one. They always start 30 minutes after start time. That's just how it's human nature. People don't get there on time. So just being accounting for that. And other than that, it's been, and then, making sure you don't try to do too much. So we like, a previous project we did at Regen World, this year's Regen World, which was in Texas, we planted a whole garden and we did the prep work. So we prepped the beds, we weeded from last year, we laid new mulch, we planted, and we did get it all done, but people were kind of fizzling out by the end. So just finding that balance of making it so that there's just everyone's having a fun with the burst, but they're not like, oh shoot, I'm actually like kind of sick of this by the end of it. So just finding that right balance.
How do you avoid making this transactional, and how do you support your participants long term beyond that one event?
So from the transaction piece, it is a for-profit business, so there is an exchange
No, I
there,
mean
like a
like
financial.
transactional is in not just one and done. How do you continue that conversation, ensure that you have that continued long-term success versus sort of
Uh,
one and done kind of setup? That's what I mean. Sorry.
Yep. No, perfect. Yeah. So we do offer maintenance and coaching. So that's one way that we offer online coaching or in person. I just love to check up anyways, just intuitively. I'm going to want to go back and see how things are growing and check up and really make sure everything's going great, as good as it could be. And then for the participants, so for the land steward, that's one option. I do recommend like, hey, let's do a maintenance plan. So we'll stop by for an hour each of the next few months. And then for the participants, they can follow along on our social media or website. And then a lot of the parties are open invites. It depends on the steward. But a lot of the stewards will say, hey, it's an open invite. Then I post on my social media that anyone can show up. So that's one way to just stay involved, is that you can come to future parties. But also we really want to empower everyone to be able to do this at your home on your own. Like if you want the direction and the structure and me or my team to come up and throw a party, we'd love to do that for you. But I also want everyone to be empowered to just do it on your own. You can invite
Yeah,
people over to your house and plant stuff on your own and play some fun, goofy plant music like we do. So it's really about putting the power in the people's hands.
I love that. I got some follow-on questions on that, but I'm going to go ahead and skip over to Nikki real quick. Nikki, you want to come off of mute?
Yeah, hi. So I'm not trying to be challenging. I'm just asking because I was invited into several indigenous communities over the years, and I'm when I heard you talk about doing one in Tulum with somebody, I am wondering how much in permaculture, which is the name that white men gave to indigenous planting systems, um, if there's any honoring of the people whose lands that you're on in that. Because let's be honest, anywhere we are in the Americas, we're settlers and colonizers at this point, and so we're doing this on stolen land, while appropriating something that they created, which generally they support because they want to see the planet thriving again and their ecosystems being respected. But I'm wondering how you address that or work that into what you share. Like, I know when people are doing parties, they don't always want to be like thinking about the heavy stuff or anything, but I think it's really important, especially during these times, to avoid erasure and further marginalize them. So I'm just wondering about that.
I appreciate the question. And that's honestly a good reminder for me because we have done land acknowledgements at some of our parties, depending on the event and the community, but it really is something we should do at every party. And so I really appreciate that question. That is something we should do at the beginning of every party. I do feel that feels good. And so like we did it when we did a festival in Arkansas last year. I know we did it at the beginning of that festival. And but yeah, that is something we really should do at every festival. I agree. And another way is
Well,
just honoring.
my biggest concern was hearing Tulum. Like I was brought out by the Hopi people. I was brought down to that area because most of those lands that are being developed in Tulum have literally been robbed at the end of a gun from the federales because somebody wanted to create something there, and it's mostly Americans and Italians doing that. So, I just like I got really triggered when you said Tulum because I was there in a working group that was number one helping them move to the next invasion, which is the word that they use for having to leave their land and having all of their their relics and their even small temples and so forth being turned into places that kids crawl around on while their parents are drinking margaritas by a pool. And so we were out there trying to defend them specifically from Disney and Nestle, who wanted that land for Nestle wanted it for the cenote water, and Disney wanted another theme park. So I mean, like I've done a lot of activism work, so that's what triggered that question most was hearing that it was in Tulum. But I've also, been there for Standing Rock and the bridge protests and everything else. So yeah.
Let me jump in real
Sorry, I
quick.
just got a little triggered there. Yeah.
That's fine. Let me jump in real quick. So, Nikki, for this one, have we addressed the subject enough, do you think, or should we go into that a little more?
Um, I feel like it's fairly addressed. I just wanted to, you you know,
I think it's a great
maybe
lesson
just
learned.
see
It
what
really
his
is. It's
thoughts on
important.
that. Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
just for the sake of time, Alex, I think you've acknowledged this, and I think you're saying that you're going to start doing this more in general because you thus realize the importance of that. How have you been iterating your project, and how do you handle feedback loops like this in order to change and or improve your project? Is this part of your evolution naturally?
Yeah, I'd say so. I really try to be open-minded and to receive all feedback. And I don't have a formal feedback loop, but I at the end of each party, people come up and just share their thoughts. So that it's been fairly informal to this point. And then I've iterated mostly on intuition and just getting a feel for what's working, what's not. Um, they've really all, I'd say all the parties have been successful, but I think it's been mostly minor tweaks, honestly, throughout the process, but there's still a lot of learning to do for sure. There's still a lot of opportunities, and there's a lot of opportunities to tap into, like I mean, I just candidly, I would love to partner with indigenous cultures. I haven't done that yet. I don't. It's not in my network. And and there's so many communities that I'd love to partner with. Like right now, it has been mostly stewards, people who own backyards, or uh, like the tiny home community, a couple other things like that. But it has been mostly stewards. So I want to partner with everyone, and inner city indigenous communities, rural communities. This vision can really go anywhere.
Nikki, would you be open to a one-to-one with Mr. Alex here, and y'all could sort of maybe talk and see if there's any doors or introductions that can be made?
Absolutely. I
Because
already have a
trying to
list of
preserve this the
people
right way.
that,
Yeah,
yes,
I think Alex should receive that very well. Thank you, sir.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That'd be great. Nikki has a wealth of connections too, by the way. She knows where Hoffa's buried. She knows where everything is out there. So, all right. For those of you who don't understand, you're too young. I'm sorry. Okay, so let me move on here. Um, Alex, I'm going to take a step out of some of our questions that we're looking at right now. If you were to redefine how you do permaculture and or evolve this, like let's just say we're going to do the 3.0 version, or maybe you're up to the 5.0 version, I don't know where you're at, but if you were to do this and you were to add things onto this, let's just say you have unlimited resources and you can make this whatever you would want to because of all these things, how would you like to see this evolve in like 5 to 10 years? Where would you want to see Permaculture Party, and how would that sort of, where do you want this evolution to go?
Beautiful. So I envision it being a regenerative ecosystem. So I'll kind of like share a vision. So where we can connect people who need regenerative services with the service makers. So for example, right now, me and my team can install and design a foodscape. We can host a party. I want to have an ecosystem where people around the US can opt into this. So if someone in Seattle wants a food forest design, they can be connected with a local food forest installer, and then those two can work together, set their price, have a fair pre-market to do that service. So that's kind of one vision. And then I also want to have hives around the US, which I'm kind of right now. Minnesota and Arkansas are my two primary bases, where I want to have, and I have a team in Minnesota where I want to have a team that can then run their own permaculture party franchises. so that we can really serve different regions. Because obviously, the install on the party, that's an in-person thing. So I want to scale it that way. I want to launch a kind of like regenerative fair trade apparel brand. So showing how, how do you make clothing the right way, but also with fun and playful and on theme t-shirts of just lessons about, like, I don't know, one vision is like, the pharmaceutical commercials where they show people happily dancing, but then they list all the side effects. I want a commercial like that for dandelions, just listing all the positive side effects for dandelions. So, I mean, that's a bigger, kind of picture, but yeah, just things like that, just showing that this is our nature and we can educate about plants in a fun and playful way and the power of, planting things.
That was great. Thank you, Alex. Next question came from Dennis in chat. So, what do the numbers look like for Permaculture Party, and how do you scale this into a viable business that's both accessible and economically viable for you as an owner to this?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I try to balance, like, I want everyone to thrive. So as I'm setting my business models, that's really a vision of like how does every employee thrive, but how do we also serve the steward where they get the value they need without paying more or less. So one, I'm always vocal of, hey, like, I want to serve, like, what do you need? Everything's negotiable. That said, I do have standard pricing. The designs, and I don't know my price sheet up, but designs range from, $500 for a smaller design up to over $1,000 for a larger design, and that's to like make the actual design where we map out where we're going to plant everything. Installs can totally vary. There's the super scrappy install where we buy the smallest wildflowers possible, and then you can have maybe a few $100s of just, excuse me, plants and the cost to pick up the plants. The party itself, 555 is our standard price for a party, and that covers marketing the event, creating a marketing flyer, leading and facilitating and planning the whole event. So 555 is our standard party price, and then the design, and then the installs, yeah, are custom quoted. They can totally fluctuate depending on the size of the install, and even if we might do hardscaping even, and that obviously raises the level. But
how are people
question,
finding you
Dennis?
right now for these parties?
Oh,
New customers? How are new
wait, Sage, wait.
Sure.
Yeah, I wasn't clear on who pays for the plants and if it's hardscaping, the materials, those kind of things. I mean, Silicon Valley here, these things are $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to do something like this.
Yeah, so whoever's land it is, or whoever owns the place that's we're planting at, would typically fund it. So most of my projects have been like the individual backyard. The person owns a home, and they're paying me to come do a project in their backyard. So I view it. If you think about what traditional landscapers do, I'm doing that. I just really focus on regenerative systems that produce a yield and that you can eat. So, but most of the things traditional landscapers do, I do, but I just, try to steer it all towards, we're not doing monocultures, we're doing polycultures, we're doing food, we're doing, we're planting medicine. If you want to mow your lawn, we'll just mow it less frequently at the highest setting and mix in some low growing flowering species. So yeah, did that answer your question?
I still don't know how you are able to function as a business when these things take days sometimes. And also, I don't know how much you can accomplish in a day in the party. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what that's like. Landscaping takes time. What can you do in a day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you go to the Instagram Permaculture.Party and check out some of the reels, you can see like exactly what we can do in a day. But you can plant, like just a project we did in Minnesota last week. We planted, or 2 weeks ago, 4 fruit trees, maybe 50 wildflowers, 12 berry bushes, a couple cherries. We planted all that in 30 minutes. So you can plant a lot. And then I had a team out there. And then if I have my team there, in one day, we can plant, I mean, we could, probably a 1,600 square foot area we could plant in one day with the team.
Yeah. So the crew matters. Many hands make light work, so to speak. I get that. And also they're not paid people because it's a party, which makes sense. That's kind
for the party, they're not paid. Yes. So if you just break down Permaculture Party, like design, that's one service, and that's is a purely service. There's not really, it's just overhead, but there's no physical cost of goods sold there for design. So that's one revenue stream. Install is the biggest revenue stream. That's more your traditional landscaping. Like we're converting someone's entire backyard into a food forest. We're sheet mulching. We're getting rid of the grass. We're adding mulch and compost, planting trees. That's our biggest revenue stream. And then party, we do still make money on the party because we're charging $5.55 for the event. And then we also charge to source the plants. So we do make some money there. That's not our huge money maker. That's our service. That's our vision. That's our mission. That's our bringing in the community. It's not our cash cow, but it is our most, passionate, impactful part of our business model.
How about licensing fees, permitting? Some of that takes time, some of it takes money. How do you handle that?
So I have an LLC, and then so LLC and insurance are kind of the top two that come to mind there. I don't have, I've never had to like buy permits to plant on people's land or anything like that.
Okay, and no one's busted you guys for operating without do you have a license, a landscaper's license?
I have an LLC. So
that's not a landscaper's license. So
I'm not a professional contractor.
Yeah, so I don't know how you're able to do this legally. I mean, in California, I would be in jail if I started doing this kind of thing. It's so.
Is that just in California or is that nationally, Dennis?
California has the most egregious, aggressive enforcement of contract board licensing, contractor licensing.
Is it possible where Alex is in those two states that he's representing
Well,
that they don't have the issue, or?
Could be.
What I was gonna say is that it's probably because he's not necessarily doing contract work. He's hosting and facilitating an event. So the people whose home it is, the land it is, they're doing their own work on it, as well as the assistance of the others. So there's nothing professional other than being rather a party planner, if you will.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it probably
in California,
doesn't
they call
need
that owner
kind of
builder.
license.
So this owner builder license, so the owner's a builder by definition. And if there's any kind of work that requires licensed contractors like plumbing, like if you're putting irrigation in, sewage, all that stuff, then yeah, you would need to bring in a licensed person. So you guys don't do any of that though, right?
Yeah, we're focused on food forests primarily.
I know, but how do you keep the plants alive in a dry region without irrigation?
Oh, it's a great question. So I haven't done really dry regions, but yes, you would want to do like drip irrigation typically for a dry region, or work with that steward to make sure they're using a sprinkler water and on their own. But for like Minnesota, we get enough rain. If you have
Yeah.
heavy mulch, you have heavy mulch, I mean, you'll want to water it that first year. But once a perennial system's established, you really shouldn't need to water it beyond that first year if you have a living ground cover or good heavy mulch.
Got it. One last question. Do you like Eric Olson's The Regenerative Landscaper? Have you seen that book?
I know Eric Olson. I have not read the book. I mean,
Okay.
I haven't met Eric Olson, but I've heard of him, and I have not read that book.
I put a link in for you, but I haven't read the whole thing, but it's sort of like basically a Bible or a manual for doing what you're doing, for doing regenerative landscaping. So yeah, cool. Yeah, that's all. I'm satisfied about the numbers. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you, Dennis. Hello, David. I just put in chat. Oops.
Yeah, sorry, I was late.
No
I did get lunch out of the deal, though.
And I cannot edit the message here. Hold on a second there. Okay, sorry. There's a sheet that we're following along here. So we're wrapping this up almost. We're getting towards the end of this here. So next thing I want to ask Alex is sort of moving on. This is sort of like in line with what Nikki was talking about as well. So this is scaling with ecological integrity is this subject here. So as you're hosting these parties in diverse places, how do you ensure, or maybe how are you going to pivot to plan to ensure that you remain that these parties remain ecologically grounded, like they're locally adapted and they're culturally resonant? How do you approach this?
One way, the biggest way is just partnering with that local community, and it does depend to some degree on who am I actually involved with. So if I'm just talking to someone who owns a backyard, then that's really who I'm working with. Obviously, if I want to be doing projects with like libraries and public parks and things like that, then you have a bigger audience to tap into with that local community. So that's one, and then the other one's just understanding the local norm. So I focus, or the local plants. So I do focus on natives. I don't do only natives, right? Because we like apples and peaches and things like that too. But for most of the support plants, your wildflowers, things like that, I do focus heavily on native species that fit within that region. And then we've also, it depends on the owner. This is not something we push, but depending on the owner, we also might plant like offerings. We might, kind of like plant an offering. So if we plant an apple tree, we'll plant an apple, or we'll bury tobacco, things like that, to just, have an offering to the land and bring in that spiritual side of things. And that really, or we might pray when we plant, but that really depends on the landowner and what they're looking for.
Thank you. That was great. Next is about equity and accessibility. So how do you ensure your events and installations are inclusive, accessible, and resonate across different socioeconomic cultural groups? And I think I know the answer to some of this, because it sounds like if you're doing it on a personal level in someone's backyard, well, it's really hard to do those things just in general, right? But are you doing group activities where you are inviting the surrounding community as well?
Sometimes. Well, thus far, I mean, if they follow our Instagram, then yes, because there are some parties that we post publicly, and then someone could reach out and say, hey, I'd love to join. That's kind of the most public it's gotten. We'll be at Earth Vibe Festival in a week, so that's going to be our largest event. That's, I think, about 400 people at that festival, so that's going to be a pretty good event there. But typically, it's if they're open invite, they are relatively open invite, but again, you kind of gotta either know the person or follow us on social media. But ideally, like I said, I really want to be working with parks and libraries, and that's where it's going to become a larger, easier to get involved with that local community.
All right, so now I'm moving on to my closing questions. So if anyone has any questions, please drop them in chat. So what's one question that I haven't asked that would have helped us better understand your model?
They were good questions, especially from the audience too. We kind of talked through the business model. Maybe it might, maybe just ask, what are there activities for all ages?
Well, I think I can answer the question a little bit. If I understand this, if I were to be asked this question, I'm just going to mirror back some of what you've said in general. And your business model isn't leading with Permaculture Party. Permaculture Party is your impact or your way to give back to that community, is what I hear you say, because you still have traditional services that are paying the bills, and sort of what helps the business, continue and push forward. Permaculture Party is what you're using, if I understand this, as a differentiator and a way to connect with communities, in a way to make permaculture more approachable, as you have defined. But it's not the leading part of your business, and it's not the solo thing for your business. I don't think you could survive off a Permaculture Party alone in this case. Does that sound right as far as everything I've said so far?
Yep, that's totally fair. And they're also great marketing tools. So, which is beautiful, because I've had some people that I've met at a permaculture party that then are like, hey, I would love to do this at my house, because they've seen it, they've experienced it, and they realize how tangible it is. But yes, you're right. The parties themselves would not, I have to do a lot of parties for the parties themselves to pay all the bills.
Yeah, I think you'd run out of time. There's not enough hours in the day, right? I can understand that. So, let's wrap this up. How may people stay in touch or follow you along your journey? Can you add any of that to chat, or your
Yeah.
whatever channels that you post to the most?
Yeah, so you can just I'll add the chat after I mention it, but Permaculture.Party is our website. And then if you on Instagram, Permaculture.Party, that's our most active channel, as well as if you just search Permaculture Party on Facebook. I haven't done the best job keeping the website up to date. There's a lot to do as an entrepreneur. So, and even the Instagram's not, by no means up to date with all the projects we've done, but that's the best place to see the most recent work, Permaculture.Party, the website, or the Instagram. And then you can sign up for a mail list on the website as well. And then you can also just reach out directly to me, Alex at Permaculture.Party.
Nikki, go ahead.
Alex, I apologize. Are you already a member of GRC, or did Sage pull you into this meeting
I am not.
blindly? Okay, Sage, can you
Yeah.
send him the form? Because I think that, him bringing that into GRC would help his business to grow and also uh, access the permaculture collabs, funding resources, and so forth.
Yeah, so that brings me right into my next question
Actually,
then.
I'll just drop the link into the comments so he can grab it and fill it out when he's ready.
Okay, I got it as well. I've just dropped it right in the chat. So Alex, there's the form for membership application for the GRC. The reason why Nikki's bringing that up is kind of goes on my next question. So my next question is are there challenges that you're facing? Whether you could use community support, direct funding support, or any other type of resources that the GRC, this wonderful group with over 1,000 members, might be able to support you on your journey.
I think the biggest, right now, the biggest bottleneck is my time. I have a lot of ideas and I'm spread fairly thin. So, a direct thing I'm looking for at the moment is a creative, honestly, someone to take photos and videos, make Instagram reels, keep my website updated, kind of a creative / admin role. That is one role I'm looking for. I haven't put any effort into posting the job or anything like that. But that's probably the biggest one. And then I do, if anyone's interested in just joining the ecosystem, whether that's in sales or installation, I do want to roll out a sales program sooner than later. We'll see when I actually get to it. But if you're interested, reach out because I do want to, have people around the U.S. really bringing this forward to people that need it, which is, steward libraries. Every public park, I think, should have a food forest. There's just nothing but opportunity here. So if you're interested, I'd love to just connect. And if there's any way you think you could collaborate or chat.
I believe there's a
happy to do
permaculture
that.
funding circle or funding group within the GRC Slack channel. The reason why that can be so important, Alex, is what I didn't hear you say is you need help with funding. And it sounds like you cracked that in a lot of ways and you have that path for economic viability. There's a lot of people in our group that need help with that or not found that yet. So there might be some great synergy and or lessons learned within that as well. So I hope that you find a good vibe in that group if you take that direction.
That's the permaculture collab I was referencing. Like
Oh,
they
sorry,
have the
permaculture
funding
collab.
circle. Yeah, it's a permaculture collabs funding circle that's in the Slack. Yeah.
Which I'm also part of too, Alex. So I'll make sure you get directed and talk to the right people in there as well. And we get Amy French talking to you. So I can help you with some of that too. Guys, that's it for my questions today. We did not take the 15 minutes at the beginning to talk about what we wanted to do for next week or who we want to interview next. We just didn't really have anyone here at the beginning of this. So now that we have people here, I do not have anyone for a session next week. So I'm going to wrap up with Alex. And while we're wrapping up, if you guys can think about who you want to interview next and who you want to bring in. Last week, there were a few discussions and ideas on who we can bring to the table. And at some point, I want to circle back to those people and see if they've had any traction. So with that, coming back into you, Alex, thank you so much for coming on today. We appreciate you coming on. We appreciate you being open for this interview. We know some of these questions were tough. I know chat really brought it with some of these, especially talking about the financials. Mr. Dennis Britton there really bringing some good questions today. So I appreciate you all. And Alex, if there's any closing remarks or anything that you'd like to say to close this out, the floor is yours, my friend.
I appreciate the opportunity and I appreciate the questions and the engagement. This was a fun chat. Gave me some things to think about too, which is great. So this seems like a really awesome community, and I'm just grateful to be here and always happy to chat. So feel free to reach out if anyone would like to chat more.
That's great. Thank
Or
you,
if know
Alex, so
someone
much.
who's looking for a foodscape or a plant and dance party.
And I missed
Love
I'm
it.
sorry,
Thanks.
Alex, you're in Minnesota? Where are you? What part of Minnesota?
The Minneapolis Metro, and
Okay.
then Eureka Springs, Arkansas are kind of my two primary.
Oh,
From
okay.
Minnesota, moving to Arkansas, those are kind of the two primary regions.
Yeah, I don't know how to make it. I mean, I don't know how this get us back to how could GRC be useful, but you know, there's a number of folks doing, like I was thinking of MJ's doing that food forest in Vancouver, and you know, there's different, and like Indy doing the permaculture festivals around here. That, you know, there are people that overlap, but you know, I don't know how to make that productive for folks. But
I'll
All
check
right,
out
so
GRC.
more
Thank you.
conversations to have, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Alex, I would really encourage you to have a one-to-one with everyone in this room right now, from Dennis to David to Nikki as well, because everyone has the connections and everyone's looking at this from a slightly different perspective. Dennis is going through a career crisis where he's trying to figure out what his next path and choice would be, which in a lot of ways he's leaning into possibly landscape, but he's finding a lot of pitfalls in this. So I'm sure there's a lot of ways that you guys can commiserate and talk about some of the things you have seen. And yes, there's a lot of opportunities that are out there. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope we see your face around the GRC more, because it's a really fascinating group and it's been such a positive think tank for as I'm learning how to formulate decisions in my own business and how I want to live my life too. So thank you for coming today. And with that,
Beautiful.
let's talk about next
Thank
week.
you.
So Alex, you're more than welcome to stay on. We're just talking about who we want to talk to next week. So Alex, if you know anyone, you're like, oh my God, you should interview so-and-so, jump in. We'd love to hear your
Okay.
thoughts as well.
Yeah, like who's your
Where do you guys want to
heroes?
go for next week, Dennis?
Oh, I'm still thinking about this because I've been trying to start an irrigation business here in California, and I'm just stopped dead in my tracks by the regulations. It's scary what they're doing. They have SWAT teams can come in and raid work sites. But yeah, so I'll hook up with you. I'll send you an email, Alex, and then we can talk offline. As far as who we'd want, I'm thinking of you know, the donut economics lady, and also Purse House, the soil versus gut thing. Terrible with names, but I'll get it. Give me a second to find it.
DD process and the
Dee Dee,
soil
yeah, Dee Dee
fund.
Purse House, yeah, and she's been in on some of our calls before, so we could get her. She's running. She's got all kinds of micro businesses going on right now. And a lot of them are through social media. A lot of it's related to education around soil fertility and that kind of thing. I'm really curious how she's running her sort of media dynasty there, and how she's getting so much support and engagement from the folks who are doing courses with her. Like Jillian Julius is also taught under her umbrella essentially, and that's really
Do we
interesting.
have an inroad there? Do we have a connection?
Yeah,
out
we
there?
do. Yeah, with Jillian. I'm going to talk to her today, and I'll ask her
So
to.
Dennis, you're taking the lead on that one.
I've got it.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate that. David, you know everybody on the planet. Is there someone that you feel is approachable that we should sort of, you know, be looking at sooner than later, because, you know, they kind of fit into the wheelhouse of what we're doing right now?
I mean, the one person that comes to mind quickly is David, the guy that runs Playa Viva, the resort in Mexico. He did a kind of a overview a couple of years ago, and I'd be really fun to hear kind of, you know, he really has designed like a regenerative, like his whole framework is regenerative. So he's
Is
working
that
all the way
David
back up the wall.
Linthal?
There
Is
we
that who
go.
that sounds
Yeah.
like?
Leventhal.
Liventhal. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you take the lead for that, or do I need to do that? Because I found him on LinkedIn. I don't mind, but do you have a connection?
Yeah, why don't maybe let me do the same thing we did with I'll send him an email and copy you maybe.
Please, please. You saw, just like I did before, I'll jump onto it and I can represent from there, no problem.
Okay. Yeah,
All
he
right,
has, I
Alex.
mean, I'm not sure how well, it'd be interesting. There might be a tension between kind of your framework and his thinking is so well developed. It might be more, again, that you want to kind of just listen to him tell his story and then figure out how it informs our kind of ongoing exploration. But you know, you can tease out how to do that. I think we have a
Yeah. If we got to do a different
but
format and we just got to resort to a talking head, maybe one week and then the following week, ask some questions about that. Like, we can be flexible. We can totally be
Okay.
flexible on this.
I am
Okay.
definitely interested in that one.
And
Yeah,
that for
it's
David.
really interesting what he's done. And I haven't heard in a couple of years how it's gone. So
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I
I love
don't
it.
think David was here when I asked Alex my big question.
Which what are you looking for a new home, Nikki? Or what are you
I
doing?
am no, I am fundamentally opposed to uh people not of Mexican heritage creating resorts and things like that on land that has repetitively been stolen right out from under the feet of the Mayan people, like that is
Yeah,
still happening to this
I think
day.
his wife is Mexican, but
I
So
hope
the
I don't
so.
know.
Playa Via conversation will be very, very
I'm gonna
engaging.
listen and I'm gonna make space and all of that, but whenever
Oh my
You're
there's
gosh.
anything
speaking
that
in your
can,
capacity as a Mexican person?
wait,
Touche.
what did you say? What did you say?
No. We don't repeat that. Oh, that's a trap. Okay, Alex, real
No,
quick.
what
No,
David
no, no,
said.
no.
Tell
Moving
me.
on. Moving on.
All right, Alex, anyone in your network that you think could be come on for regenerative iteration that you think would be a good way? And ultimately, here's what we're doing is we're trying to build up a commons of lessons learned and projects are actively going on over there and trying to just let's see what's working, what's not, where they want to evolve and where they want to take some of these things. And that's sort of the general concept of what we're looking at. And we're trying for this series not to stay so pie in the sky for people working on theoretical issues, but applied it's somewhere that you can see some of their work. Any ideas?
Yeah, I got a good one. And this answers a question you asked Dennis of what do I do in the off season. So I also work for a nonprofit called Neighborhood Forest. And I think the founder of that Vikas would be great. So Neighborhood Forest is a nonprofit that gives free trees to kids every Earth Day. And they gave over 100,000 kids a free tree this Earth Day. And we also do corporate volunteer events where we will have like a corporate, and it's just so permaculture because it hits on the fair share because corporations that have money, right, will pay one to fund free trees to the program for kids, but also for volunteer events where their employees will put together either succulents or a mini food forest with like 3 edible plants, and then we'll give those to children at a local school. So it's a fast growing nonprofit that I think they've already given a tree to over 1% of kids in the country. And I think the owner would probably be happy to come onto this.
Oh, we'd love that. We'd love that. Alex, can you take the lead on that? And can you make an intro over email with me CC'd
Yep,
and then I can take over once you make that intro?
absolutely.
I dropped
I
the
really
link in the
appreciate
chat too.
Okay, so we have 3 viable leads for next week. Nikki, I didn't ping on you at all. Do you have anyone top of mind that you would just love to see in this kind of interview format or where we can learn more? Other than someone you want to troll?
It's good that you put that boundary on me right there because I was gonna be like Lululemon. Can we tear them apart? But anyway,
Hey, I know the former CEO of
no,
Lululemon, so I can help
I
with that. I can bring him on. He's a fascinating guy.
That's for a different
no,
series, not this one.
Okay.
no, like seriously, I just have so many issues. Not at the moment. I'll think of somebody that we could bring on that I won't be trolling. We'll see. By
Okay.
the way, I wasn't trying to troll you, Alex. I was honestly, honestly curious about what you were saying in regards to the
I
place in
appreciate it.
Tulum and stuff like that.
Yeah, I
It's just
appreciate the
everybody
question.
who knows me can tell you the most of the last 15 years of my life has been spent working directly with indigenous people and defending them and learning from them and so forth. So traveling with them, etc. So yeah, it's just like ingrained in me now.
I love it. It comes from a place of love. So we get that. And that's
Yeah,
why
it's
it's
beautiful.
no
Thank you.
problem. So I appreciate you, Nikki. I think we all appreciate the perspectives that you do bring on here because you've gone through a journey that a lot of us cannot relate with. And so I think the perspective is very valuable. Um, all right. So that said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up 4 minutes early. We have 3 action items. David, Dennis, and Alex, all 3 of you are going to make introductions. If you can, make them over email. I'll give my email just in case. All right. So just as a top of mind, that's my email for the introductions. If you can CC me on that, and I will take over after you make that warm intro. Thank you all that showed up today for Regenerative Iteration. Alex, again, thank you so much for coming on. You're a great sport, and we learned a lot from you in an area where permaculture is falling on a lot of deaf ears lately because it can be too complicated. It can be too overwhelming, and it's just not as approachable in some ways, albeit there's a lot of genius there. So finding people who are making that approachable, making that easy for others to get into, we'd love to hear from you type of people. So that's great. We're so glad you're here. Neighborhood Forest, DD Pierhouse, land and leadership.org. We got a couple things on here. So hopefully we'll have something set up good for next week, everyone.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
all.
everyone.
Have a great day.
Yeah.
All right, I just sent a note out to David and copied you, so we'll see what he says.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for doing this, man. How are you feeling about it?
What's that?
How are you feeling about this?
Let me stop.